Welcome to the formal writing presentation, which also includes an introduction to the business case. My name is Adam Mostogel. I'm going to take you through what would otherwise be a refresher on formal writing, I'm hoping, but I think there's probably some really important things at least to clarify, and then I'm going to run you through the business case template, which is one of the larger submissions as part of the program. Now, you are going to be creating a report document. That's what a business case is. And so I want to just introduce some of the things that you need to consider. First things first, you are going to have to create paragraphs underneath each and every heading. Now, you've probably done essays before. If you haven't, there's a great sort of outline on the screen that we love to share. When you talk through something, I don't want you just to say, this is what we've decided to do. It's one-dimensional. I want to know why you've done it. I want to understand your thinking. I want to get, in your headspace, why you've thought to do this. The judges for your business case will be reviewing it electronically. And so they won't be able to ask you questions. They won't be able to check in with you. They only have what you've written in the document. And your evidence and your supporting documents are really, really key. So writing a paragraph, tell what it is, why you've chosen to do that. Have you got any evidence to back it up? Maybe unpack that evidence and obviously tie it together. That's what we need you to do under each and every heading to really clearly talk through what your idea is. Now, the next part about is the writing process, and we're sort of stepping you through this process already. So you're pre-writing, you're already starting to do that, you're putting things under headings, and then you're actually going to draft it. Then it's really important to get some feedback, one from us if you can, but also from your peers. Get people in your team to check it over to make sure that everything is actually what you've talked about in your group. Then you revise it and you edit it. Just really carefully go through it. Check for spelling mistakes and grammar mistakes and just make sure it looks the professional document it needs to be. And it's really important before you submit to actually reflect and make sure that it is the best. Now, we're already starting to model this behavior and this process because you've already done your business case canvas. You've started to write ideas under certain headings. So you've already got some thinking. Now you actually just need to put it into the draft business case format to get it ready for the completed submission. So to wrap up this part, here is a bit of a checklist to definitely work through. Make sure you got a cover page. It really clearly says your business name, your team number, what the document is, really clear starting first impression. And then a contents page so that we know where the sections are in the document to really easily navigate it and find things. Use formal language and grammar throughout. So make sure you spell all your words in full, you avoid any slang terms, avoid contractions, expand those words out, and make sure you write in third person. Don't talk about what I have done, make sure that you're talking in that third person frame. Reference your information. Make sure that you do actually have sources for your documents and all your stats that you're going to pull in. And make sure that you do not lose the headings and subheadings from the template. When someone reads a business case, they're looking for certain pieces of information. Easiest way to find it is to keep the headings and the subheadings in the document. One, it helps you to make sure that you've written enough stuff underneath each heading, but it helps the reader know what they're reading and sets them up for that. So do not lose those in the document. Now, with that refresh, it's now time to start looking at the business case itself. You might have heard of feasibility studies and other things in the media. Well, this is a modified format of that. How do we prove that this idea is going to work? That is the business case. And the first section is the situation analysis. This is purely you talking about the problem that you see. You're not talking about your solution just yet. You're really setting a clear foundation that something is not as it should be. You've done your problem frame, that's the first heading. Your background research that you've been preparing and pulling together, you've been getting that research ready, that goes in the next section. The objectives, the third part. Make sure you set clear objectives that your proposed solution needs to address. If we're going to fix this problem, what must it do? Well, if we're going to talk to teenagers, it must be actually teen friendly. If we're going to deal with families, it's got to take into account they're going to school and back every day. If we're talking to people who work, potentially running it between 9 and 5 is not going to work out for our solution. So this is you starting to unpack. We know what sort of things we need to take into account. It should be just a couple of dot points. That's your situation analysis. What is the situation that we see out there at the moment? Then we moved into the next section, which is the proposed solution. This is where you talk about your idea. Now, the identification of options is a otherwise short summary to show that your team has talked through a couple of ideas. If someone came up and said, oh, here's the idea that we've settled on, and it's the only idea we had, and as soon as we had it, we just jumped on it. We didn't think of other options and didn't categorize which is the best solution. People are going to look down on that idea because they just think you've chosen the easiest option. No, actually, teams, have you gone through a bit of a process and looked at your options that you had, and through that process, you identified the best option? That gives some people some confidence. That's the identification of options section. The next part is the proposed solution. So now tell us what your idea is. How does it work? How does someone interact with it? What are you going to do to make it work? This is the only section where you talk about our idea is. So make sure that you clearly articulate it because you don't want anyone being confused about what you're actually doing. The next one is the solution requirements. So on your business case canvas, you have to think about your staff and your resources. So what do you actually need to deliver your business? But also, how will you gather it? How will you get these things together? Are they already in your team? Do you know where you can access the resources do you need? Do you have to recruit special people? How are you going to deliver your solution? Then your assumptions. Now, you might not think it, but you've actually had to make assumptions about your idea. It's really important to outline what those assumptions are and provide the logic of why you thought that. By this, you assume that you're going to have customers. You assume people are interested in this. You assume so many things like this, but there is a reason why you think that's going to work. That's just some examples. I'm sure that team, as you think through things, you're probably going to have a range of assumptions, but it's really important to back up the logic so people know why. And then the cost benefit analysis. You've obviously already seen that in the finance presentation, so I won't go into any more detail about what that actually is. Implementation plan. So we've talked about your situation analysis, which is the problem that we see out there and the situation as it is. The proposed solution is all about how you're going to solve this. This next one is how are you going to do it? So this is now talking about how do we actually make this real. The first one is establishment costs. We've already covered that, but that's obviously what it's going to cost to start. The support required. What help do you need to get this going? Do you need some financial support? Do you need money? Do you need someone to approve financing? Or do you need in-kind support? Do you need some networks opened up? Or do you need to talk to some people? Or do you need some partnerships to make your idea work? What support do you require to take your idea to the next stage? And then solution performance. What metrics or indicators or targets are you going to set to measure success? It is really, really important you know what success is in your business. It might be based on profits. It might be based on something else. How will they be calculated, and what sort of targets are you aiming for to make sure that we know the numbers that you're aiming at? The next section is key stakeholders, which again is a section on your business case canvas. You should think through who are the stakeholders that you need, who has a stake in your business succeeding going forward. Your customers might be a stakeholder. They might advocate on your behalf. The people who use it and the way they use it and show it off to people could be a stakeholder. Are your funding partners going to advocate on your behalf, or are there other partners you're going to work with as well? It's really important to identify them all. The next one is solution milestones. So you've got an implementation plan on your business case canvas. The idea is that your idea is not going to be world changing overnight. What's step 1? What's step 2? What's step 3? What are the smaller steps that you're going to take? Potentially scheduled out to grow your idea. Really carefully think through what some of those steps and stages are. And then the last section of your implementation plan is your profit and loss forecast. Are you making money over the longer term? Is this financially viable? You need to come back to us with that. The last 2 sections are very brief. So you've got your situation analysis, the solution, and the implementation plan that take up most of the work. You have a conclusion just to close out your report, a final statement, a final paragraph to bring all the threads together and close out your report. And then the final thing is, of course, your reference list. List all sources that you have referred to so that it is really clear and straightforward so that we know that you have found this information and whether they're from reputable sources. Good luck, teams. Ask us any questions if you need help.